the few moments that we have left, we want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
As the webmaster of JohnClaytonDammit.com, I was happy to promote it as good as the Emerald Queen and almost as good as 710 ESPN. I know I'm the only one that cut a promo video with your voice. The 710 ESPN Fantasy Football Camp with John Clayton logo and a Geico commercial mixed in.
Wow, how about that?
Yeah.
Fantasy Camp's going to be at the Emerald Queen Casino, sponsored by Geico. It's going to be the third annual Fantasy Football Camp presented by Coors Light.
There's an easier way to save. Get online. Go to geico.com. Get a quote. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Now that the 710 ESPN Fantasy Football Camp with John Clayton at the Emerald Queen Casino, sponsored by Geico and Coors Light, is in the rearview mirror, as the webmaster, I'm obligated to declare the 2011 fantasy football season without John Clayton has commenced at JohnClaytonDammit.com. So let me give a quick shout-out to all the fantasy football players who are at the Emerald Queen, drinking Coors Light, feeling good about driving home with Geico Insurance, and feel free to cut me off if I step out of bounds here, JC. And to all fantasy football players everywhere, John Clayton is a Hall of Fame football writer, the professor of the NFL, the guru of football, real football. So don't think just because all we've heard for 3 weeks is fantasy this and fantasy that and fantasy this and that, you can just call the John Clayton Show and ask John Clayton a fantasy football question, because outside of the comfy confines of fantasy football camps, John Clayton only wants to talk about real football and doesn't care about your fantasy team. And John Clayton Show listeners really don't want to hear your indecision on who to draft, start, or cut. So, in the words of Winston Wolfe, please, pretty please, with sugar on top.
There you
go.
Freaking
car.
Let's go to Vince. Vince, how are you?
He is the professor with no successor. He's John Clayton. Damn it.
Damn it, how are you?
John, I just want to say one thing. Last week on the show, we had 5 fantasy questions in a row. For the first time in 9 years, I almost felt like turning off my radio. I'm going to please ask the fantasy football people to go out there and do your homework. There's plenty of websites to get information on, but John Clayton is all about the National Football League.
And that's the thing, and I think that's a reminder, because realizing that Vince and also Commando Dave will now start to police this. If you do have fantasy questions, you can get them you can get answers. The question, you have to phrase it in football terms. I mean, if you come in and say, and this is just because we, just like yourself, and we've been doing this for a long time, we talk football, we talk sports on this show, and we want to try to appeal to everybody. And, of course, you can get your fantasy questions asked. All you have to do is just put it in a football term.
Now, right off the bat, John Clayton, you know I'm a DB, and I've been watching 3 receivers rather closely. Rookie A.J. Green, number 18 with the Bengals, Mike Williams, number 17 with the Seahawks, and number 87, Eric Decker, second-year guy with Victor's Broncos. And looking at tomorrow's games, I'm wondering how the rookie is going to do against the Bills' season secondary, which averages 5.5 years in the league. Mike Williams is off to a shaky start, but we know he has big play potential. And the Falcons secondary has no problem giving up big plays, especially when Dante Robinson adds a 15-yard cherry on top. And opening night, we all saw the Packers. Their secondary can be a roasted turkey waiting to get carved up. But
359 yards a game they're giving up right now, the Packers.
Is that right?
Yep.
Well, Kyle Orton's knife isn't nearly as sharp as Drew Brees' is. So all big receivers, as you know, John Clayton. Eric is 6'3", A.J. is 6'4", Mike Williams is 6'5". So what's your take on those 3 guys against the secondaries they play against tomorrow, John Clayton?
All right, well, A.J. Green, I think, has a chance to do well, but I don't know if he can put up big numbers because Andy Dalton's just, 3-step drop, throw it underneath, and not doing anything. And so it's like he's not really tempting to go downfield. It's like he's kind of compressing. So I'd be a little wary of him. In the case of Mike Williams, he's off to a slow start because they're not throwing him the ball, and it's not because they're not open. I mean, it's a matter that, as soon as Sidney Rice came back, they gave him, 8 out of the 18 completions or so. I mean, everything was targeted to him, so they need to get Mike Williams the ball. And the third one was
Eric Decker.
Eric Decker, I mean, maybe because they could be trailing so much, but I'm not sold that Eric has really shown that he's that good of a receiver yet. He just may have the opportunities because Brandon Lloyd's going to get double-teamed.
Now let me give a quick shout out to the Chronic Fantasy Football callers and put a cherry of my own on Vince's call from earlier.
Yeah.
I just asked John Clayton a fantasy football question. In fact, that was actually Nestor's question from last week, which ironically enough was the call of the day on the John Clayton DAMMIT Facebook page.
Let's go to Nestor in line 3. Nestor, how are you?
What's up, Professor? How are you?
Doing great.
Hey, man, I got 2 questions for you. One, wide receiver question for fantasy football.
Okay, remember, wait, you can disguise fantasy because Commando Dave is coming up here and he's going to spank you. So, we talk football. So, you want to talk receivers? Who do you think? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, fantasy football wide receiver question.
No, you didn't get it. Now, remember, follow me here. You want to talk about wide receivers. Take the word fantasy out and you can just ask a question.
Okay, fair enough. Wide receiver.
Thank you.
I have A.J. Green starting against San Francisco. Should I start him or Mike Williams from Seattle or Eric Decker from Denver?
Tom in Federal Way. Hey, Tom.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I have in all my years never called with a fantasy question, but I've got one for you this morning.
Okay, now remember, because we got the Commando Dave police, we got the Vince police, so you were going to have to ask it in a football-like question. Let's go to Commando Dave. David, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How you doing, John Clayton?
Good, and I'm glad we got the fantasy police out. So we need the heavy hand here.
Whoa! You're going Commando.
That's Commando Dave, wasn't it?
He ought to have his own show.
Have you? Yeah, no kidding.
Someday, and that day may never come, I'll call upon you to do a service for me. But until that day, accept this justice as a gift on my daughter's wedding day.